There are many ways to start a story, but not all of them are good. Today I want to target 5 specific story openers that usually suck. By the way, my name's Brandon McNulty. I'm the author of Bad Parts, also the author of Entry Wounds, and welcome to my writing channel. So let's get right to it. I'm going to talk about 5 specific story openers that are ineffective, cliched, or boring. And the first one is when you open up a story with all setting and no action. And this is something you see a lot of times with newer writers. They think that it's vitally important to open up a story with a beefy setting description. We need to know what the weather is like. We need to know where all the trees are and where the sidewalk is and what kind of rodents are climbing up the trees and where the birds are flying and all the different setting details that supposedly are important, but honestly we don't really need them, because what we really need is action. And I'm not saying we need explosive edge of your seat action. I'm just saying we need some kind of action going on to get us into the story. It could be something as simple as some character interaction, or a character trying to overcome an obstacle. But at the beginning of a story, you need to balance out what is going on with where it's going on. Number 2, action without stakes. We just talked about how you need action in the opening scene of your story. Action is important, but some writers take it too far and all they give you is action. And where they really make the mistake is when they give you all this action, but they don't give you a reason to care about the action. I especially see this in stories that open up with these chaotic battle scenes. You'll see bullets flying and swords being swung, but you don't know why you should care. And it's important to remember that when you do open up with an action scene, you need to establish what your character wants, and you also need to establish the stakes. And when we talk about stakes, we're talking about, okay, what does your character gain if they get what they want? And also, what does the character lose if they don't get what they want? And if we know what's at stake and we know what the character wants, then we can get invested in a story. Number 3, news reports. A lot of writers are lazy and they think it's okay to open up a story with an info dump where you just feed information to the audience instead of dramatizing things. And some of these writers, they recognize that yes, they are info dumping, and what they do is they say to themselves, you know what, maybe I could make this cool and I could portray it as a news article or some kind of broadcast at the beginning of the story, and I can convey the information through that. And I especially hate news reports at the start of a story, because not only are they just thinly veiled info dumps, but they're always secondhand. Instead of actually putting us in the shoes of a character who is experiencing something, we are getting a secondhand report of what happened. Number 4, waking up in bed. Specifically, the in bed part is the problem, because if your main character starts the story waking up in an unusual scenario or an interesting scenario, like say for instance, maybe your main character wakes up and they're taped to the ceiling, or they're inside the jaws of a sleeping alligator, or they're inside a bathtub that's full of severed body parts. If that's the case, if that's how your story opens, I want to read that. I want to see what happens next. But if your story opens with the main character waking up in bed because their alarm went off, that's just generic. That's uninspired. That's pedestrian. You can do better than that, and you have to be more creative if you're sending the message that your story matters. I mean, if you're telling a story, it should be something that is special and unique. It should not open up in the most generic way possible. And number 5 is opening up with a dream sequence, especially a dream sequence that is followed by your main character waking up in bed. But the problem with dream sequences, especially when you open up your story with one, is that they break the contract between the writer and the audience. Because here's the thing, when an audience picks up a book or they sit down to watch a movie or whatever it is, they know that what they're seeing is fiction. They know it's not real, but they want to believe it's real. They want to get invested in it. They want to believe that what's happening in the pages of your book or on the screen, they want to believe those things are actually happening. And if you open up your story with all kinds of excitement and intrigue and bold risks, and then you tell your audience in the very next chapter or the very next scene that none of that actually happened, that it was all just fake and it was just there to, get your hopes up, they're not going to trust you for the rest of the story. And if your audience doesn't trust you, they're not going to be able to fully commit themselves to this story. They're always going to have in the back of their mind, they're always going to be saying, well, you know what, in chapter 1, all that excitement was for nothing, so maybe this exciting scene right here that's happening in chapter 19 doesn't matter either. And you don't want that. So don't run the risk of breaking that contract between you, the writer, and your audience. So I hope this helps. Question of the day, in your opinion, what is the worst possible way to open up a story? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to support the channel, please pick up a copy of either one of my novels. Also, be sure to check out my other videos. Hit the like and subscribe buttons for me. Share this video with a friend. And as always, remember to keep on writing.